Well, hello, Christ Community Church. My name is Young, and I'm coming to you all the way from the Lansing area, Lansing, Michigan, that is. I currently serve and lead at Riverview Church here in the Lansing area. Pastor James Lee is a friend of mine, and it's such an honor to have him ask me to come and provide this Wednesday devotional to your church family. Today's devotional comes from Psalm chapter 62, and let me just read these 12 verses here for us real quick here. King David, he writes, "For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. How long will all of you attack a man to batter him? Like a leaning wall, a tottering fence. They only plan to thrust him down from his high position. They take pleasure in falsehood, and they bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse, Selah. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. My fortress, I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory. My mighty rock, my refuge is God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us, Selah. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances they go up. They are together lighter than a breath. Put no trust in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart on them. Once God has spoken. Twice have I heard this, that power belongs to God, and that you, O Lord, belong steadfast love, for you will render to a man according to his work." We see here that King David, there seems to be a sense of tribulation in his life. And we know that that is definitely the case within a kingdom that was getting divided, where people were chasing after him, trying to kill him. And in this psalm, we see two things. One, essentially, is where King David turns to in the moment of tribulation. And then two, his addressing of not putting our trust in extortion or riches, which seem to be at odds with each other or just not congruent thoughts. But we'll get here to that in a little bit. They actually do connect quite well. King David, he's going through a difficult season, a difficult time in his life, as he is being chased down, as his kingdom is being divided, and I'm sure amongst other things. And what we see here is King David's knee-jerk reaction to this, or at least one of his reactions to this. You might have heard that in moments of panic or moments of tribulation or difficulty, there's a fight, flight, or freeze type of response. And I would advocate for the thought that King David here kind of does a flight response. But he doesn't just run away into escapism. He doesn't just run away into his own kingdom or into his own armies or whatever. He turns and runs away specifically to his God, to Yahweh, to the one who he calls his rock, his salvation, his refuge, his fortress. And that is a great message for us in our lives as Christ followers. In the moments of despair, of difficulty, of tribulation and trials and hardship, what do you do? And if you run, where do you run to? Do you fall into self-defense or self-preservation, trying to uphold your own reputation in your own life or whatever it may be? Or can you run to the Lord your God and activate and live out this hope that you have in him, to trust that he is your rock and your salvation, the one who is mighty enough to save you, the one who is mighty enough to protect you as your refuge? Or again, do you run into self-defense and self-preservation? You know, that second half of this passage seems a little bit weird. King David brings up riches and extortion and not placing our trust in them. And you're thinking, well, this came out of left field. Well, in short, the Israelites would have understood this as what King David is pointing out as, hey, stop leaning into yourself. Because one of the things the Israelites really viewed as a cardinal sin was the sin of covetousness. It was desiring someone else's goods. It was desiring someone else's riches. It was desiring one's own wealth. And the reason why covetousness was such a cardinal sin was because at the root of it was idolatry, and there was the idolatry of the self. It was idolatry that I get to pick and choose how I want to live my life, and everything in this world belongs to me. And what King David here is trying to say is, stop pledging allegiance to yourself. Stop trying to sustain yourself, but rather pledge your allegiance to Yahweh, to God. Because He alone is your fortress. He alone can be your and should be your salvation and your refuge. And so my friends at Christ Community Church, I hope that this is a word from King David that you can hear, that in the moments throughout the rest of your day and the week and the rest of your life, in the moments of hardship and difficulty, where do you turn to? Who have you pledged your allegiance to? Is it the things of this world, or is it our Lord in heaven, who is guaranteed and promised to be your salvation and your refuge?